wonderful knitting life. My name is Margaret, and I am here today to talk about all of my recent knits, my finished objects. Well, we don't have any of those yet, but close to finished objects and a lot of other good knitty stuff. So I hope that you have yourself a good beverage to drink, a bit of tea, and that you can relax and get some joy from my channel. I have been getting a lot of advice from my children and my nephews about how to do my podcasting. And as I'm not overly technically inclined or skilled in this area, I am really grateful for all of the input that they have given me. Today, I'm lucky enough to be podcasting with a ring light. My sister sent me one, and I'm giving that a try to hopefully get some better video footage, especially when it comes to knitting projects and the yarn. So we'll see how that goes. It's been a little bit difficult to get good lighting lately. As of about March, we've had very, very strong sunlight. Being above the 50th parallel, the sun is really, really strong in the spring. It seems to bleach out a lot of my videos, so I'm working to see what I can do about that. It's a really cloudy day today, so that might make a difference also. My nephew, Nate, tells me that I need to, at the beginning of my videos, ask everybody to like and subscribe, but also to click the little bell, which is the notification button, if you want to be notified when one of my videos has been uploaded. So, Nate, I'm putting it out there. I hope there's some people who are enjoying my content and will give us some additional likes and subscribes. This podcast really more was put together originally because I wanted to see if I would be able to do this. I have always enjoyed knitting and crafting, and I thought, yeah, maybe I have something to contribute to this world of podcasting and can give some joy to people like I have been getting from a lot of the podcasters that I watch. It really is an enjoyable thing to follow people and their projects. I enjoy watching podcasts now probably more than I watch television shows. So it's really become something that I do when I'm knitting, when I'm researching projects. I look to see if somebody else has already knit that project. Somebody else maybe has used that yarn, and it gives me resources that we didn't used to have back in the day when I was knitting at a younger age and these things didn't exist. So today, I'll start talking about what I'm wearing. I am wearing the Vinterfjell sweater by Skeindeer Knits. She's a designer and she also has a podcast. I spoke about this, I think, in my very first episode, but I've never worn it when I've been doing a podcast. It is a beautiful project. It is very intricate. It's a fingering weight yarn, and the yoke is just eye-catching. I love this project. It also, I can't remember if it put a pattern on the wrists or if that's something I did. I have a feeling it was there. I did also put a pattern at the bottom, and this is definitely something I added in. I love it. However, the yarn I used was Holst Supersoft, and it is a very, very light fingering weight yarn. If I was to knit it again, I would knit one size bigger. I would also make it longer. I really enjoy it. It fits really well under a ski jacket because it's nice and fine. But those are the two things I would do in order to get a sweater that I think would be, it would just be that instead of my 90% loving it, it would be 100% loving it. It would make that little bit of difference to the project. But highly recommend the pattern. Very, very easy to follow. She is a great designer. You can check her out and see many of the other different things that she has on her store in Ravelry. So when I did my last regular podcast, I talked about the sock tubes that I had made when I was back in Ontario at our family cottage. I have a Speedster Gearheart circular sock knitting machine. I've had it for almost a couple of years now, I think, and it will make sock tubes. It will do a lot of other things for you too, but one of the best things, and really its #1 purpose, is to make sock tubes. So I had managed to get some pretty high-end yarn. They were coming in about $40.95 a 100-gram skein. And if you're interested in knowing more about that yarn and the name of it, you can look at my my last regular podcast, because it would be in there. But the wonderful thing about the circular sock machine, obviously, is that it's fast. And you can also do a hung hem, which is what this is. So it's folded over and it's already caught. When you turn your circular sock machine, you will catch that onto the back. So you don't need to sew that down. You just have to sew that end in. And what I have done since I last talked to you is I finished all of the socks, toes. So I chose solid colors, which is really a fun part of sock making, is making these contrasting heels and toes. I find that super fun. This one, which is, it's got some light purpley, lilac-y pink and gray in it. I had a solid gray, so I chose that for the toes on this sock. And I'm really liking how that looks. This one is the longest one. I made them all 10 rows different. This one's the longest one. The next longest one is this blue one that has little pops of purple in it. And I decided to make the toes this really beautiful purple. So that's the next longest of the 3. So the toes are done on that one. And the toes are also completely finished. On this pair, which is green, lime green, pops of yellow, kind of has a little bit of pooling when it gets knit up. And this is a 60 stitch sock. So I finished all the toes and I started the heels. So I've only done one so far. You'll see why when I talk about a more recent cast on. I used the Kirbywirby afterthought heel tutorial video, which is on YouTube, to do the cut-in heel, because I did not have any waste yarn for that. It's a true afterthought heel with no waste yarn. I did not find this difficult. It was very, very straightforward, really well explained in that video. She does a little trick right here in order to make sure that there's no holes at the ends of each row, because when these are made, of course, they are knit like this. So socks are notorious for having little gaps at the side, and she has a little trick in the way she handles the cutting in of the heel, and it really does the job quite well. I started, as suggested, with one regular row of stockinette just going around, and then I went right into the decreases. I made this sock to fit me. What I'm finding is that I probably could put a little bit more length here, and that I should be doing more rows of regular stockinette stitching before I go to the decreases. When I try this on, I find that it's really pulling across the top of my foot, and I do not have a very high instep, and I have pretty narrow feet as well, and I'm still finding that this is kind of pulling. So I am either going to rip this out, or I'm going to finish both of them, because I have a relative that has smaller feet than me, so this probably would fit her really nicely. But when I do my socks, I'm going to need to do a minimum, I think, of 3 rows before starting with the decreases, and maybe even more. But I think I'll start with 3 rows on the next one and see what happens. Anyway, the socks are coming along really well. I'm enjoying the process of doing the toes and the heels in the contrast color. The Kirbywirby Afterthought Heel video is fantastic. I highly recommend it. And that's it for socks. So I will just put those away and talk about another project that I have made a lot of progress on. So I don't have anything finished, but I am getting there. I'm really pushing hard with all of the whips. I tend to get really distracted with new things and I want to cast them all on. And now that we're changing the seasons from winter into more of a springtime, although it's pretty cold today, we're at 0 and it's really windy, feels kind of like more snow might be coming. But I'm really trying to get some things finished up so that I don't have all of these bags all over my living room table. It's starting to become a little bit too much. So this I've talked about before. This is the Stars of Barbro. It is a sweater that I have knit out of Plutolopi, which is an unspun Icelandic yarn. It is a beautiful, beautiful yarn. It doesn't take too long to get the hang of knitting with it. I found the worst part of using it was doing the cast on because I was trying to get, you know, pulling it so the stitch wasn't just all totally loose. And I was obviously pulling it the wrong way because I pulled the two yarns apart. But very simple to splice it all back together again. And once I got going on the knitting, I seemed to really get into a groove and had no problems with this yarn. So what I've done so far is I have completely finished the body. I've made it nice and long, which is how I like my sweaters. I've mentioned before that I'm pretty tall, so I do enjoy a long sweater. It tends to keep my lower back warm in the winter, which is almost a necessity when you live in a place that has as much snow as we get here. I've also almost finished a sleeve. I went really fast on this sleeve using the magic loop method, and then I really found that wasn't working for me, so I've put this on a small circular at the bottom. But I find now with a small circular, I can only do a few rows at a time because it tends to hurt my hands. I don't know how some people do things all the time on these small circulars. I guess it's the way I'm knitting. And most of the time now I knit continental style. That is new for me. I always knitted English style with the yarn in my right hand, throwing it over the needle every single time. And I decided I really needed to find a method to knit faster. So the simple striped sweater that I often wear on my podcasts, it's one of my favorite sweaters, by Suvi Knits. That sweater was kind of a challenge a while ago because I decided I was going to learn how to knit continental style, and I knit the whole sweater with my left hand. It was slow going at certain parts of that sweater, I can tell you, very slow going. But I figured if I could knit a plain stockinette sweater, continental style, I would gain the muscle memory in order to keep knitting that way. So my color work is knit with two hands, and the stockinette is knit continental. So holding the yarn in my left hand. And the ribbing, I switched to knitting English. I have not mastered switching from knitting to purling continental style. So I guess I'm a bit of an ambidextrous knitter. I sometimes knit with my right and sometimes knit with my left, depending on what I'm dealing with. If I'm dealing with purl, I go to my right hand. If I deal with lace, I feel more comfortable holding the yarn in my right hand. But for anything that's just straight knitting, continental all the way is where it's at. It's much faster and it does feel very fluid. I enjoy how it feels. So hopefully this will have another arm pretty soon and I'll be able to wear that next winter. It's getting a little bit too warm for something like this. However, this yarn seems to have a secret power. It seems to be kind of like a climate control yarn. I tried it on and I didn't really feel the heat that I normally feel when I put wool on. But then I stepped outside and it did seem to warm me up. So I think it's a really special yarn, this Plutolopi, in that it will keep you as warm as you need to be. It also weighs almost nothing. It's as light as air. So if you haven't tried it, I would recommend it. I think it's one of the easier yarns to get from stores in the unspun yarn lines, and it seems to be readily available, although I have heard that the best time of the year to be looking at getting this is late summer and fall, after the sheep have been sheared and then the yarn has been dyed and put into plates. This time of year, there might not be all of the color selections available that you would like to get because they're just running out of the stock. But that's my Stars of Barbro progress. And then we have something new. So, quite a while ago, I'm just going to grab this off the table, hopefully not wiggle the camera too much. Quite a while ago, I showed you the kits that I had bought from Mary Maxim. The kit for the Positive Vibration Shawl came on sale, or basically Mary Maxim decided to sell them off because they're not in their store anymore. And when I had become interested in this shawl quite a few years ago, I had looked around at buying it, and it was pricey. And the yarn is very specific to the pattern. It has very vibrant colors. It's very color changing at a certain pace. So I didn't buy it, but one day as I was just kind of yarn surfing the internet, I found this on sale on the Mary Maxim site, and on a super sale. It was 75% off. So I decided I was going to jump, and I bought 2 kits. This yarn is by Urth Yarns, URTH, and I will try to add everything into the show notes for you. So if you're interested, you can look it up further. The color changing yarn is called Uneek Fingering, and it's a hand-dyed self-striping merino, and it really is absolutely gorgeous. When I had mentioned these shawl kits, I had asked viewers to give me a little bit of help with which one I should make for myself. And hands down, this was the one everybody said I should go for first. And I did. I was very intimidated to start this pattern. Short rows are something that's been a little bit confusing for me for a number of years. I've done them at the back of the neck, but never really understood the process, especially when I was dealing with knitting and going back and purling. So I figured if I could make this, I really, by the end of it, would understand short rows, because it's really built on short rows. All of this patterning involves mastering short rows. So I thought, if I can do this, I can do anything with short rows. However, when the packages arrived and I opened it up, there are some absolutely gorgeous pictures. It is color photographed right through, a fantastic package, but it's 14 pages long, and it is jam-packed, absolutely jam-packed with patterning. And I was extremely overwhelmed by the level of complexity of how the pattern looked. So I closed it up, shoved the pattern back in the bag with the yarn, and put it away because I just was overwhelmed and I had to think about it for a while. How was I going to manage to make this? I even thought maybe I would just use the yarn for another project because it was too hard. I just don't know. I couldn't do it. However, I had a moment when on a weekend when I sort of was thinking that project is back there in the bag, I'll just wind up the yarn. So I did that. I winded up the yarn and got one step further to casting on. I kind of did the baby steps method. And then I just decided I would look at the first page of the pattern, and I got some special masking tape out and I sort of blocked out all around anything that I didn't need to see so that I could only focus on the pattern. And then I cast on. This pattern is amazing because the way they start you is just by introducing the border. You're only knitting on the plain colored yarn, and there is one solid colored yarn in this pattern, which is this very, very beautiful navy blue. And then there are two different colorways of striping yarns. And those striping yarns, I've got to grab one, it just fell on the floor. They are extremely vibrant and beautiful. One of the most beautiful yarns, really, I have to say, in the world. This is the one I decided to start with. This is the other one. I wound it up. I'm not really enjoying this one. I think it'll be great for another project, but I don't know that it's really going to go with that one as well as I want. And because I have the two shawl kits, I decided I would take this one instead and wind it up and give it a try as my second colorful skein of yarn, because I don't know, I didn't want to give away all that beautiful vibrancy that I'm getting. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. This one is not wound up in a cake because when I put it on, I can't remember what the big thing is that you open up and you put your skein on. I discovered that the way this had been put into a skein, there was a major problem with it, and it was kind of really messy. It was the true definition of yarn barf. And I ended up spending over an hour detangling in order to get this hand wound. It was a bit of a nightmare, but it's done now, and hopefully that will never happen again. So I started working on this project, and it's really genius the way it sort of slides you slowly, slowly into the pattern. So you develop the border, which is increasing and decreasing on either side. Sorry about the dogs. They must see another dog outside and they're barking. And then you just start by doing some stripes, which is very manageable. And the first introduction to the short rows, which is right here with this little bit of a wave, is not too difficult. So they really slowly take you on a journey into these short rows, which become increasingly difficult. But after I'd done this little section here, I thought, you know what? I'm doing this. This is working for me. It's okay. I can do it. So you go back to some stripes, and then you go into this waviness, and back to some stripes. And then we start getting into some far more complicated work. But by the time you get there, you feel like you can do it. And I have to say, I am in love with this. I can't wait to keep going. We talk about doing striped projects. This is just like that, where you want to get to the next section, get to the next row. When I got to this section, which I'm just going to put it against me because it's easier to see it, which is much darker. I even thought of cutting out that color, but it honestly gives a little bit of a break to the bright colors when you get to this. And it is very quickly going to go into a greeny teal and pink. So I think it's smart the way that it goes to a calm down section, and then we'll go to a much brighter section. So one other thing that's really important when you get to these bigger sections and as you start to get to the longer rows is to also make sure that when you sit down to do one of these large sections that you're not going to get interrupted. So yesterday I was cooking a chicken. I knew there was about 30 minutes left, and I really had to think about, am I going to be able to do a section in 30 minutes? Because I do find if I put it down and then try to pick it up in the middle of the row, even if I've made a mental note of what I was doing, it's really hard to pick it up again. So for me, that's something I'm going to have to pay attention to. If I only have 15 minutes, car knitting or lunchtime knitting, this is not going to be the right project. I'm going to want to do something like my sock heels. So the other thing that I did was a small modification. Modifying this pattern would be really difficult. I would never interfere with the genius of it. But one of the things that they do in the pattern, which I am not doing, is that they alternate. They will do a section with one color and then a section with the other color and back and forth. And while that might really add to the beauty of the shawl, I simply do not want to carry two yarns while I'm knitting on another. One yarn being carried up the side is fine, but two, I just find too bulky, and yarn management becomes a real issue. So I just made the decision really early on. I was only going to use one at a time. I'm going to go right through one, and then I'm going to start the other one. And I think it's turning out just fine. Very beautiful. Maybe I should have worn a plain sweater today for this video. There's a lot of pattern going on here. But I really am enjoying this. I have to say, this is probably one of the most addictive knits I have ever made. I can't wait to get to the next part. I don't want to put it down. And for the last 2 weeks, this is maybe even just 10 days, this is the only thing I've been knitting on, to the point where my wrists are getting a little bit sore. So I actually had to stop knitting last night and just put everything away because I can't end up with a knitting injury. That would be a travesty of the very biggest kind. So that is the Positive Vibration Shawl. I highly, highly recommend giving it a try. It's a joy to knit. It is a journey of learning. And it would be really interesting to hear if you've knit this one and what your experience has been. Another thing that's available is a Facebook group. I joined it. I haven't needed to go on there and ask questions, but it's certainly an option if you are struggling or are running into a big issue with this project. So that's available. All right. So I have a couple more things here to talk about. I've got this shawl, which you've seen before. This is the Botanic shawl by Stephen West. I love it. It's beautiful. However, the depth of it is not something I like. It's too wide. And if I keep going with the border, it's just going to be down to my ankles. Way, way too wide. I've done all the repeats, and I'm sure for someone, the width is going to be great. It's just my preference that I don't like things super wide. So I finally have decided what I'm going to do with it. I am going to rip back probably to about this width here. So however many repeats that is, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to rip back. I'm waiting actually for a friend of mine to come visit me so that we can do a rip back party. It's much easier with two people than one when you've got two colors. So this is all going to go. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to knit it straight for as far as I can go with the amount of yarn I have based on what I have used. So that really comes down to the kitchen scale. So what I will do when I rip back is I'll weigh my colored yarn to find out how much I've used. And that way I can know where to stop when I just do my straight knitting. And then on the other side, I'm going to decrease just like the first side so that my yarn sides will kind of dangle down when I wrap my shawl around. And that's how I like to wear my shawls, wrapped once around with the two ends dangling down. It is kind of a sad thing to rip out a project, but as my friend Marianne said, if you're not going to wear it, rip it back, because it's just going to sit in a closet, and that is not how I want my knits to be used. I want to wear them, I want to enjoy them, And sometimes if ripping back is going to do that, it's the right thing to do. But when I have to rip something back, I do find I need to hibernate it for a while, because the pain of ripping something back right away is too hard on me. It's just too difficult. So that's been hibernating for a while, and I'm starting to feel ready to rip it back and go forward. And I think this is going to be a good shawl to knit when the weather's a bit warmer. It's very light. It's not going to be bothering me. I can't knit a full wool sweater that's on my lap in the summertime. It's just too hot. So that brings me to my last project that I dug out of the hibernation closet yesterday. It has been sitting there for over an embarrassing amount of time. I think it's been sitting there for a year. This is one beautiful, beautiful project by Sidsel Hoivik, who is one of my favorite designers. She is, I believe it's Norway. She's from Norway. She has a shop. She also has a book called I think it's called My Favorite Knitted Sweaters, and I do have that book, and it was well worth the money. Absolutely everything in it is a project I would, hands down, want to knit at some point in my life. And I have knitted a jacket, the Forest Star jacket. I've worn that on the podcast. I've shown it on the podcast. It is gorgeous. But this is another project of hers, and this is the first one. So this is the Olivia jacket. I have made the body. There are pockets. I'll show the back as well. It is in the most wonderful combination of colors. It's this brown and this beautiful, vibrant tealy blue. And at the bottom, we've almost got like, would that be like an avocado color? Yeah. And the finishing on this is fabulous. Like her knits are also a great learning journey. So you knit an interfacing on the bottom and turn it over and sew it down. So I've done that. You also do the same thing on the edges right here and on the neck. And there's an interfacing here on the shoulders. And what that is doing is covering your raw edges of steeks. And it's also putting in some supports to the garment so that it's going to sit really well when you wear it. I have also, this is an embarrassing whip because I should have finished it. I have also made a sleeve, which has this great rolled cuff, and I have almost finished the other sleeve. There's not too much more to do with this one. I'm getting there. And there might be a little bit more on both sleeves because I just want to make sure they're a really good length when they're done. So the question is, why did it go in the hibernation closet? Which actually is a real thing. I have a closet with projects in it that I'm upset about, so I give them a timeout. And that way, when I go back to them, I can see how much I love them in the beginning, and I can be brave to do what needs to be done in order to finish them. So here's the problem with this. I spent a whole Sunday knitting the two sides here to enclose the steeks and begin the button band. But one of them is about 2 inches longer than the other. It's kind of difficult for me to show that. Oh, maybe there. Yeah, one of them is longer than the other. And it's when it gets going, it's about 2 inches. I soaked this, I blocked it just to make sure that I wasn't going to do some ripping out damage unneededly. But no, I am going to have to rip out one of them. It's going to be the one that's longer because it's rippling a little bit. And I'm going to have to do it again. There's no doubt about it. And that's why it ended up in the hibernation closet. But I have decided this is coming out of the hibernation closet and I am going to finish it. It is absolutely beautiful. I can't wait to wear it. I don't know why I haven't managed to get to it sooner, but it's going to happen. This is the first time I've done inset pockets. I've done the liner as well. And Sidsel Hoivik's projects, when you have finished them, there are a lot of embellishments to do. She has a lot of crocheted edging. I love to crochet, so that's going to be something that I enjoy. There's also sequins that are put on, and I think in her original she has buttons that she puts on here. I don't think I'm going to put the buttons, but I do think I'm going to add the sequins in. And it's something I've never done, so sequins, these should be fun. I'm just looking to see what I've got here to show you. So I do have the little sequin package that comes with the kit. Sorry about all of the plasticky noises happening here. So we've got the blue sequins, and we've got almost like little tiny diamonds. They're little beads. So those get put in on the cuffs and on the bottom edging of the, I could put these on this sweater too, of the project. And it's just a whole lot of bling. You know, her projects, there is bling. If you really like that, she's your girl. I did not, no, you know what? I did purchase the buttons, and I used them on my Forest Star cardigan, which I made out of Holst. So that left me with no buttons. So I have a few options. I'm really lucky when it comes to buttons. I have an amazing stash of buttons from my mother and my grandmother. They, of course, were in a time period where you didn't waste anything, especially my grandmother. And when a garment was used up, she would cut the buttons off and put them in the button box, and they would be reused for another project. So I have so many buttons that I really was able to pick and choose. So I did find a couple of options. I've got these kind of clear avocado type buttons. They seem to look really nice on this project. I also found some beautiful blue buttons that I could possibly put in if I decided to do the buttons as embellishments. Those are a perfect match. So that would be a possibility too. I just need to finish it. And now I've got the mojo. The mojo is here, so it's gonna happen. I'm going to do it. I wanna wear it next winter. All right, so I've got some acquisitions and some extreme enabling to talk about. At the beginning of this year, I decided I was not going to do any more purchasing. I was going to shop from my local yarn shop, personal yarn shop, aka. All of the yarn, it's just over there in the yarn cupboard. I have an enormous amount of yarn. There is no need to be buying any. I am sure no matter what pattern I find, I can definitely find something that's going to work. However, the Knitting Loft went and had a sale just a little while ago. And I have been looking at the Symmetry shawl by Katia for a very, very long time. Just give you a close-up of that beautiful pattern. And they went and put their kit on sale. What are you supposed to do when that happens? I don't know. I thought about it. I put it in my basket. I took it out of my basket. I put it back in. And then I wrote to my two friends and I said, oh, I think I might buy this because it's on sale. I've always wanted to make it. And it really was on sale, a fantastic sale. And my girlfriend said, oh, you've got to buy that. You're never going to get a sale as good as that. Okay, there's the enabling happening. Yarn people, we're bad. We enable so much, even when we know people are trying to cut back on their yarn addiction. The enabling was severe. So it went back in the basket. And then, of course, there's the problem of if you spend $200 or whatever the amount is, you'll get free shipping. The shipping was going to be, oh, I don't know, like $24, $25 just for this wonderful yarny goodness. So of course you think, oh, well, I could get some yarn for that. I really need this and that and whatever. So yes, it happened. I broke down and I broke my rule of no buying yarn. This will be the last one this year, and probably next year there will be no buying either. All right, so this is what I got. I got the Symmetry Shawl Cowl from 2020 by Katia. I have to give them credit. I've never received a kit so cutely packaged. It's in this little box. It's got the picture on the front. It even has all the yarn colors that are inside. How awesome is that? And then when you open it up, you've got a little booklet that tells you where to go and get the pattern, because it is online. I won't talk about that because that's their little secret. And then we have the yarn. And I have never knit with this yarn before. So this yarn is the Cotton Yak by Katia, and the colors are beautiful. I absolutely love them. I can't wait to work with this. This project, again, is going to be like the positive vibration shawl. It's going to be a huge learning curve for me because there's so much going on here. All the different stitches there. I think there's brioche, which I've never done before. And I really like to learn new things when I do a project. It keeps me engaged. It means I'm more likely to finish it because I'm not going to get bored. So this definitely falls into that category. I do not plan on starting it until I've definitely finished some of the whips that I have going on. All right, so then comes the, well, if I spend $200, I'll get free shipping moment. So, some Plutolopi happened. I decided I was going to get some more Plutolopi. They didn't have a lot of colors. However, these colors are colors that I really love. This is a very soft, peachy color. It's definitely coming up way more orange on the camera. It's a lot more muted, and I just loved that. So I got enough for a sweater quantity, and this is like a caramel brown. So I don't know if my sister would be interested in either of those, but I know I love them, so we're not going to have a problem. They're beautiful. I also decided that I wanted to try, this is from Shawl, and they do the Zauberballs, which I love so much, but they had their Zauber flowers on sale. And a Zauber flower is more of a lace weight, although I feel like this would work really well with Holst because it feels like that same light fingering. And it is one of these beautiful color changing yarns. I have to say when I got it, I was just a little bit disappointed because you can see here, right there, that is the color change. There's some dark purple and pink. And I got more of the green and maybe more of a navy blue. So at first I was like, did I really order that? That doesn't look like the color I ordered. But now I've decided I'm really happy with it because I'm going to use this in a yoke. And one of the sweaters that's on my wish list is the Koivu sweater. It has all of the feathers and the textured patterns. So I think that I might use this with a cream, and I think the green is going to look really beautiful. There's a bit of a gold and then it goes to that blue. So that's the idea I'm going to use this for, and I think it's going to be very beautiful. The other thing that arrived was my kit for, and I'm even forgetting the name of it, Tunisian crochet. I bought a set of Tunisian crochet hooks. I did not buy the cheapest ones, and you can get a set for $20. And I certainly didn't buy the most expensive one, which are more like a $200 set. I went more to the middle of the road after watching a few videos, and I think this is Knitter's Pride, and it was about $60 on Amazon. Inside, it's a lovely little package. These are bamboo, which seems to be what pretty well all Tunisian crochet hooks are if you're getting them with the cords. And I wanted them with the cords because I have a plan to make a shawl that is in a book that's not even released yet. But when I see something I like, I gotta make a plan. So I bought these, and obviously I'm gonna need to make a few more simple things first before I jump into anything complicated. But it's one more journey to take of learning and crafting, and this is the thing that brings me so much joy. And I know you understand that when you love something, this is what it's all about, you know, trying something new, learning curve. Yeah, so this is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. So I think that's all I have for today, which is quite a lot. I'm just kind of getting caught up with everything that's come in the mail, all of the things that I've been working on. I hope you've enjoyed listening to my yarn journey today. And again, if you are enjoying my channel, it would be great if you could like and subscribe. I've kind of thought a little bit about what I would do if I got 1,000 subscribers. I'm just under 800 at this point. And I thought, you know, maybe there could be a little bit of a prize if we hit that point. That would be kind of fun to send some joy back to the people who are watching. I also had a little bit of a suggestion from my brother-in-law, and he said, you know, you live in such an interesting place with so much beauty of nature, being by the sea. He said, why don't you put some video footage of the things that you see in town or when you go cross-country skiing? He also said, you know, put some pictures up of your dogs and your cats. They're super cute too. So I have a little bit of video footage that I might try to add at the end of this video today. It is me skiing before I got the pneumonia, which has kind of put the skiing out of business for me. Plus, we're losing our snow now. And also a little bit of a storm that we had maybe 2.5 weeks ago, one of our spring storms. So I'll see if I can add that to the end, and you can kind of get a bit of an idea of what it's like to live on the North Shore of the St. Lawrence in Quebec, Canada. So wishing you wonderful knitting. Take care, keep well, and enjoy every part of your lives. Take care. Bye-bye.